Beautiful. Welcome, welcome. So let's just take a moment to land. Let's take some deeper breaths in through the nose, and out through the mouth. Just inviting the exhale to soften us internally, to release any contraction in the body or in the mind. Letting the breath ground us through our seat into this moment. And then letting our awareness pool at our heart center. Letting the breath bathe the heart. As we drop in to the wisdom of our hearts. And our embodied humanity. And then when we are ready, we can gently open our eyes and see each other. Taking a moment to allow our gaze to meet.
Thank you, Catherine. It always feels like this beautiful internal massage when you speak.
Thank you so much for that reflection on that. Really
My whole system softens. I can feel really in my body
Mm. Mm.
and ready to speak from the heart.
Mm.
I'll continue the practice of speaking from the heart.
I would love to invite you then, lovely one, to share with me, to share with us what is present in your heart in this moment.
So I've been reflecting on this word exhaustion and how it connects to our energy. I notice this word appearing in different places, different communities that I am part of. And when I listen to the words or the spells, as you have said, and I hear other great mentors speaking about the words or spells. And I remember my own journey of feeling exhausted and how I had normalized that when teaching full time in inner city London and feeling quite overwhelmed with the amount I had to do and achieve and accomplish and produce, and feeling pulled in every direction, not knowing or always feeling like no matter how hard I worked, it was never good enough. And I'd normalized waking up in the middle of the night every night to get up. I felt that was normal. That was just me. Um, and yeah, then this kind of low level anxiety, but I wouldn't have called it anxiety there because I wouldn't, or then because I wouldn't see myself as an anxious person. I wasn't an anxious person, but there was this real disconnect. And at the time, it felt like a disconnect from a sense of purpose, even though I was in a very purposeful career and was successful. Um, so yeah, that was a real journey of this sense of feeling exhausted. So yeah, I was just reflecting on the process. I don't use that word anymore, and it's not something I feel.
Mm.
Um, and we were speaking earlier about the processes that we have been through in order to, yeah, mm, find our energy, find or connect to the capacity of our energy.
Mm. Mm. It's very moving to witness your story. It makes me wonder how it touches your heart to share and explore the spell of exhaustion. How does it touch your heart?
Yeah, there's this sense that so much of it comes from the mind. Our brain consumes the most amount of energy,
Mm.
the most amount of calories.
Mm.
So, and when you're a doer, an action taker, a pitta type person in Ayurveda, a high achiever, a successful woman, shall we say. I don't know why this word success is coming up for me because that's not really the the all women are successful. Of course we are. Um, and we managed to do a lot, and we managed to have many, many tabs open. I've gone off track.
Back to your heart.
Mm.
Why
It
is
feels it feels
the
unnecessary. It feels unnecessary. The mind consumes so much energy, and how we fuel the body, how we support the mechanics of the body. I believe we have been taught, conditioned into a way of being, into a way of doing that does not serve our bodies, doesn't serve us to really tap into that potential, into that capacity that we are able to have and move through, or allow the energy to move through our bodies. So there is a deconditioning that we are starting to see. So many of us women are starting to see that this way of being, there must be a better way. And that was certainly the point at which I had decided to explore different ways, because I felt at that time when I was teaching and feeling this way that there must be a better way than this. And that's what drives the exploration.
Mm. Mm.
Have you had your own journey of exhaustion, Catherine?
Mm. I feel that it's always alive for me as a mother. Working for myself, and juggling a lot of balls, which is very much a capacity and a siddhi, which is, a magical gift that we have as women. Um,
What does that mean, Catherine, for those who don't understand that word?
a siddhi is a magical power, so it's your power.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our powers is to be able to hold a lot of threads. Um, but for me, it really is a daily practice to turn my awareness from overwhelm and exhaustion to vitality and resourcefulness. And I am so grateful for that shift, that deep shift in my awareness, that I get to choose. I get to choose the path. And that is within my power. It is within my power whether I choose to wake up after a broken night with children, judging the fact that I have not had enough sleep, and um, therefore starting the day with a particular mindset of lack, or whether I get to almost shake that off, tune in to what is beautiful, which is often for me the birds singing. If the sun has risen, that just immediately transforms everything for me. So that light, the light that is coming into my body, or the sound of the birds. If it's a rainy day, then I will still go and put my feet in the earth, because that connection to the earth will support me to allow any negative stories to melt out of my body, and to choose the fact that life is a gift and every moment is a gift. And I can either do it as a chore from a place of victimhood, or I can engage with it with love, with grace, with gratitude, and with reverence. And what that does is it shifts my central nervous system totally. So if I am contracted, if I am in lack, oh God, it's another day. We've got so much to do. There's so much on the to-do list. Then my whole central nervous system contracts and I am exhausted.
Mm.
I've created that that chemistry in my body through my mindset. Whereas, if I choose to look at the light, and sometimes, the practice of dancing or moving my body, maybe it's breath work, maybe it's the movement, whatever it might be that day, because for me it does change on a daily basis. But whatever tool I choose to engage with, for which I'm so grateful, which also supports me to shift my energy. And then everything is possible. Everything is possible. And it just makes me cry to even share it, really,
Mm.
because for many years I was a victim, and it's right there. It's not far away, you know? And I'm so grateful to know that, I get to choose, and I am empowered to be vital in my life.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
Mm.
and I suppose I might just share that at the moment, for example, where there's this dance between being a mother and working, or being a mother and engaging in my soul's path, where even that distinction is still a spell in itself, because and that's a really challenging one for us as mothers, that being mother is the greatest soul's path. But so often we are still in that mindset that, you know, being productive in the world, or, making a difference in the world, making a difference out there in the world, is of greater value than making a difference within our home hearths, our home environments. And so we choose to share our energy out with the world more than within our home hearth. And so that is still, for me, a really big edge, where
Mm.
the exhaustion will come because I'm battling with myself. So when you're battling with yourself, then the exhaustion comes.
Mm.
When you're not following your soul's, um, wisdom, your soul's intuition, when you are a slave to the mind that tells you that you have to do things that your soul is not aligned with, then the exhaustion comes. Mm, thank you. Thank you.
Mm. It's an interesting one. I'm sure there will be mothers listening as well. How, and even for someone who's not a mother, there is this something that pulls you away, pulls the mind away. That if I spend time doing this, then I'm losing out somewhere else. So if I spend time with my children, then I'm losing out on making an impact in the world. Or if I take my energy over here, then something else has got to give over there. And what I'm really hearing there, that it's when we notice that we are separating those parts of ourselves, that is when we choose to interrupt whatever thought or chemistry is moving through the system at that point, to come back into, which is what you were describing, back into the body, back into the breath, in those moments.
Mm, absolutely.
And trusting that, yeah, trusting that wherever you are in this moment is exactly where you need to be.
Mm,
And there's only ever presence.
mm. Yeah, exactly. That's what comes to me so strongly, is the presence. If we are fractured, then, we are never aligned with our highest purpose, or we are never truly going to make a difference in one way or another. We're not going to make a difference to our children. We're not going to make a difference to our partners. We're not going to make a difference in the world. If we are coming from a place of fractured energy. And so
Mm.
it is about cultivating the presence in any given moment, because then, in my experience, what happens is that then we are resourced, then we are truly resourced. And so, where for me, the faith, if you like, and the trust has come so profoundly, because it's all very well saying these things theoretically, but how does it actually manifest itself, And it has shown itself for me over the years, again and again, that the deeper in presence I am, the more the universe, if you like, the energies have got my back. Or you could express it in the way of the more I am working with the energies of the universe as opposed to just working in isolation.
Mm. I wonder if there are some examples in your life where this has come true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible, and I'm going to be 50 this year. And I am so grateful that I am turning 50 with the awareness of how this actually works, where I've actually seen it. So, um, until a couple of years ago, we were living in a beautiful cottage. Um, but a cottage nevertheless, where my husband and I are both, so I'm almost 6 foot and Luke is 6'2", and the cottage, we had to duck our heads through every doorway that we went through, and often bashing our heads. And we have 2 children and a dog, and we had really outgrown that space. And we had moved into the cottage, if you like, as a result of a massive shift in our lives. And so we were downsizing massively. We had huge amounts of belongings that were all kind of in this attic space in boxes. And so it was not an easy way to live. And, in many ways, it felt extremely challenging. And I remember in 2020, I did a meditation, and the meditation was coming through the portal of 2020. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in your life? Where do you see yourself? And I saw this home with great big windows. Oh, I'm going to cry. And a great big lawn and high ceilings and people in the garden and music and apples, actually, apples. There were apple trees. And I remember the vision very strongly. And it was beautiful. And what came to me in that moment was, this is that vision. Here I am. I have this beautiful cottage that has a beautiful view over the sea, but it doesn't have big windows and it doesn't have high ceilings. But what I understood was that I needed to love in my present moment and not put my awareness to a future point that didn't exist. It was about loving where I was. And so I started doing that, and I filled that cottage with so much love and meals and hearth fires and fireside sort of, adventures. And that home really lived. Mm. And now, 2 years later, I am in the house with the high ceilings and
Mm.
the huge bay windows that have the same view. But it is exactly the home that I saw in my vision. And it came into our lives in a way that was totally unexpected, because it was a house that was just down from where the cottage was. And we loved it. But it was not for rent. And then it came for rent, and we asked, and they said, no, we're not going to rent it. And so I accepted that. And 6 months later, they came back to us and they said, would you like the house? The house is available now. Would you like the house? And,
Mm.
and here I am,
Does it have apple trees?
and it has 3 apple trees in the garden.
I love it. I love it. I love it. What I'm really hearing there is this cultivation, if we're speaking of exhaustion, the cultivation of deep gratitude of where you are at in this moment, And um, yeah, and bringing and in order to be have gratitude in that moment, you need presence.
Yes. Yes. And the exhaustion comes from always wishing for something different.
Yeah, the grass is always greener.
Yes. And of course, you never get there, you know, if you're not present and grateful for where you are, because then and then that's another piece, isn't it? But it's the attractor field, that we are attracting from a place of abundance, wherever you are in your life, you're abundant, and then,
Mm.
of course, then when you realize that you're not in lack, you're not exhausted, you know.
Mm.
Um,
And even our own connection came from a place of the for me anyway, I had decided that I was fully supported
mm,
and that we people were going to come, women were going to come.
mm, mm,
And it's interesting if we and I was just with your story of being a mother as well, that how do you know it's not easy to do all of the things when you're on your own in that way. Um, and even for a woman who doesn't have children, it's not easy to be on my own either, right? So,
mm.
um, when we're connected to, yeah, what the heart wants, when we're connected to presence, when the channel is clear, when the vessel is clear, we are supported. The universe starts to bring in the energy that is needed
Yeah. And the people.
and the people.
Yeah. So as you say, that's really how we found each other.
Mm.
And for me, that had been holding a vision again, but feeling resourced, as you say, not feeling in lack, and trusting, really trusting.
Mm.
And then from that place, we found each other.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Mm.
I wonder for
Mm.
people who are struggling with exhaustion at the moment, what would you say to them?
Mm. Mm. Really to allow yourself to breathe deeply, to take breaths in the moments in between, to notice the beauty of life that is all around you, the birds, the trees. It may be a pussycat crossing the road, or it may be a
Mm.
city, you know. Um, it may be a voice that you enjoy hearing. To allow yourself to tune in to those things, to those sounds, to that awareness, so that you can start to notice how connected you are to the greater web of life, and that you are not alone, that you're not
Mm.
all alone. We are all interconnected. And as we come into our hearts, we remember that we're not alone. So yeah, to love yourself, I suppose,
Mm.
the journey for me away from exhaustion was a journey of self-love. Um, to learn to hold myself and to be with myself, that happiness wasn't out there, it is within you. And it's the small things, it's the little things as well. There's so much conditioning that it's the big things that make you happy, but it's not. It's the little moments. It may be a smile from your child, or it may be just that your child has stopped crying for a moment, or that they've taken their first step, or you know, yeah, just a smile,
Mm.
laugh, yeah. Or a connection in a shop. That always used to nourish me so deeply when children were young, was having conversations with people in shops. So really, I think my gift to you is that I see you, you know, I see you in your exhaustion, and I know what it is to be in that place, and you are not alone, and you are deeply resourced to choose a different path. You are deeply resourced to choose a different path. You are deeply conditioned, and you have the capacity to undo that conditioning.
Mm. Yes, the journey of, for me, the reconnecting to the body,
Mm.
reconnecting to the deconditioning of the mind and the patterns of my own mind,
Mm.
the overthinking, overdoing, pushing on,
Mm.
driving forward. Um, and yoga and meditation are in such profound practices for that. But the moving the body, dancing as well, um, shaking,
Mm.
releasing some of the energy, because what I realized as well, it was decades of
Mm.
um, suppressed emotions,
Mm.
not wanting to cry or to be seen as weak.
Mm.
God forbid anybody saw me cry. Oh my goodness. Um,
Mm.
yeah, learning to know that I don't need to hold all of that. I'm getting support. That's the other thing as well. Like finding the support with different people who you feel will get what you're going through or what will just get you. I
Mm.
remember looking for somebody. I had to find somebody to speak to that understood about mind body connection.
Mm.
Because I was very much in that world, but I needed some other way to externalize through words. Um, that was very powerful in helping me to start reclaiming my energy for sure.
Mm.
And then, of course, looking at how we've been conditioned into the way of eating, that doesn't serve us, but actually it doesn't energize us. It depletes our energy. So, but that's a whole other topic in itself.
Mm.
But yeah.
Feels really, poignant what you shared about keeping a lid on your emotions and feeling that you had to hide or repress your emotions in order to, um, be acceptable in the world. And of course, that is exhausting in itself. The energy that we are using, right, to repress the emotions is greater than, allowing the emotions to flow. But I wonder if you, yeah, would like to speak into that shift for you, um, that permission that came to allow your emotions to move and to flow.
Yeah, I guess there's an awareness that what I had experienced in my early 20s, kind of series of traumatic events, were actually considered traumatic events. I had never really, I had never really considered them as that.
Mm.
So that kind of recognition, because I was very much kind of, it's fine, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Y yeah, that was a what do you call it when you denial, it was a denial, I was in denial. It was a technique that I was using. Um, and then I remember going into it was one of the, cancer care units in London. It wasn't, I've the names escaped me now, and I was just so in awe of how beautiful this building was and how beautiful the space was that I just got so emotional to just feel so held in this beautiful space because I remember when I was 19 being in a very clinical space, surrounded by old people, and I was 19 at the time. And this somebody had taken the care to create such, a kind of, yeah, just beautiful space. I like being in beautiful spaces. But it just felt like somebody had cared enough that our healing and what we're going through requires for us to be in where environment matters. It really matters. And a therapist in there had said to me, um, "What if nobody was judging you for crying?" I couldn't quite get my head right.
Mm.
And then slowly, slowly, just feeling braver and braver to share my story with people that don't know me. And then I remember having a time when I suddenly realized that I needed to share this story because there was somebody in the audience that needed to hear it. It would give them permission to start to share their story because they would recognize themselves in me, and that actually it wasn't my story anymore. It was the story of all humanity, all people. And that's when this kind of veil of separation started to dissolve, that I was sharing everybody's story.
Mm. Mm.
So, yeah. And there's things that you can do, stand in front of a mirror and tell your story to yourself. It's quite a powerful process to go through as well. Just slowly, slowly, the tears stopped falling.
Mm. But I imagine that there was huge release in allowing the tears to fall as well.
Oh, massively, massively. You're exhausted after it.
Mm.
And then I go to bed, I fall asleep, and I wake up in the morning feeling so much lighter.
Mm. Mm.
And you're just like you're describing there, just helping the pressure pot release a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more until eventually the pressure's no longer in there.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And the body settles. You feel more calm, more grounded, less attached to the fear of judgment of your tears.
Mm. Mm. More able to be present.
Yes.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. It's a huge piece
Mm,
um, around exhaustion of what we are repressing and what we are pushing down. It takes up a lot of energy.
mm,
Um, because we are so conditioned to need to keep a smile on
mm.
our faces all the time. Um,
To keep going, to keep being productive, not to cause a fuss, not to show weakness, because you're the strong one.
yeah.
Don't want to be seen as somebody weak or a victim. Mm,
As opposed to being more in the flow of the feelings as they come. I think over the years, this is what I've been really observing and learning. Really, I think this journey of being more heart centered is that we allow the feeling as it comes in the moment, so that we're not carrying, so that we're not heavy in the charge of something not feeling good. So, if, for example, yeah, I mean, you might have a difficult encounter with someone, or somebody doesn't hear you or see you, or, somebody's rude, or the children are massively disrespectful and unkind, and I can feel all this charge inside me. So on the one hand, it's all okay. It's all okay. I'm just going to get on with it. You know, body contracts, plow on. Or take a moment to go into the other room and do what you need to do to release that charge, which for me, for years, required me punching cushions and screaming into cushions. Um, and sometimes still requires me to do that or shake, as you
mm,
spoke about. Um, but what is the way for me to release the charge before it becomes, a repressed emotion? Because once it becomes a repressed emotion, then for one, it's harder to shift. And two, it is draining you. It is basically draining you. You are getting heavier and heavier by the moment kind of thing. And this is such a massive deconditioning for us, isn't it?
mm,
Such a massive piece as well around the exhaustion. And it is little by little that we allow ourselves to move the energy in the moment. Mm. There are many aspects.
mm. And suppressed emotions is what causes and dis-ease in
Dizzy.
the body. And then we start thinking about digestive health and how our stomachs are able to metabolize and process and these areas of our body, the lower centers, the lower parts of the body is where it first shuts down
Mm,
when we're contracted, when we're in fear, when something traumatic has happened in fight or flight, right? These are the areas that really contract and start to cause numerous problems for people. So, yeah, this conversation is really important for health and for us to understand that um, the the pharmaceutical route can be supportive. Um, However, it's a much deeper um, conversation when we think about human health.
Mm, yeah, yeah. It's an
Mm,
invitation from the body, isn't it, really, um, to be to be more in alignment with ourselves, which is not to push through, because as you say, when we push through, we contract. And when we contract again and again and again and again, then ultimately we start to become unwell, because
mm,
these centers shut down. And so there's always wisdom, isn't there? And when the body is in that state of dis-ease,
mm,
there's always wisdom there. And I know your journey with that lovely one has been a big one. So there's so much wisdom that you have journeyed in your lifetime. Be
yeah.
to heal yourself.
It's still a journey, the body's still
Mm.
communicating. Something's still not quite right here. Something still a little bit more to explore and deepen, and the layers keep shedding.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Uh, and it's a journey of a lifetime, but for me it feels like a more hopeful, exciting journey because we step into this space of curiosity and being the scientist
Mm,
of our own being.
mm, mm.
And that's where we start to really bring the power back and the sovereignty back and take agency over, um, how can I listen deeper? What is my body saying here? Um, yeah. And actually, it takes you on an interesting journey because you start to connect with people that
Mm.
have. I was just thinking there, I'm working through something to do with my mouth at the moment, and this woman suddenly appeared in my life who does this particular type of practice, and I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I want to connect with you and explore you because she's got a particular expertise in this area, or since I moved here in Southwest Scotland. And suddenly a herbalist appeared in my life, and started to work with local plants here. And that's been an interesting journey as well. So, yes, there's things that we're working through, but they open up all kinds of doors of connection and exploration and learning more.
Yeah. When we choose that path, isn't it, of self-mastery, when we choose the path of our own care as opposed to outsourcing it,
Mm,
which is what we've been conditioned to do, to outsource it, but then we're not in control, we're not empowered, when we lose connection really with ourselves because we don't know what's going on with
mm,
our own bodies, and so that bringing the focus back inward, is so beautiful because then, as you say, then all these doorways start to open,
mm,
because actually then, you're opening to the universe again. So that there is,
mm.
yeah, that connection to source, to the universe
Yeah.
having your back,
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's a beautiful place to end there. I love that.
Yes.
Thank you for
Mhm.
this exploration of exhaustion, Catherine.
Yeah. I feel deeply nourished and, activated and at the same time grounded and relaxed as a result of this time.